All right, let's talk about a 2,500-year-old strategy that is just as devastating today as it was in ancient China. Seriously, it's the secret to pulling off impossible victories, and it all comes down to a single, very clever idea.
I want you to just imagine this for a second. A huge, empty desert. One minute, it's nothing but sand. The next, the largest armored force since the Second World War just appears behind enemy lines. It's like they materialized out of thin air. So how on earth is that even possible?
Well, this isn't some sci-fi movie. It's exactly what happened in 1991. Coalition forces were up against what was then the world's fourth largest army. Everyone was digging in for this long, brutal fight. But instead, the ground war was over in just 100 hours. It was stunning. The key was this wild maneuver they called the left hook, and it left the enemy completely and utterly blindsided.
Now, the answer to this whole modern military puzzle doesn't come from stealth bombers or secret weapons. Nope, it comes from the writings of a legendary Chinese strategist who lived 2,500 years ago, the one and only Sun Tzu. Okay, so here's what he said. Attack a position that is not defended. At first glance, that sounds almost too simple, right? It's like someone telling you the secret to walking through a doorway is to use the open one. But if you think that's all he meant, you're missing the absolute genius of the strategy. The real secret sauce is this principle right here. Control your enemy. Don't let them control you. See, Sun Tzu wasn't talking about just getting lucky and finding an undefended spot. He was talking about creating one. It's all about manipulation, getting your opponent to stare intently in one direction while you're sneaking up from another. Look, this is a proactive strategy. You don't just hope for an opening. You go out and you manufacture it. You make your opponent put all their best soldiers, all their strongest defenses in the exact spot you have no intention of ever attacking. You get them to build a fortress around a decoy, and that leaves the real prize wide open for the taking. To really see this in action, we've got to go back in time. We're going to the Three Kingdoms period in China to look at one of the most incredible examples in military history. It's about a general named Deng Ai who was facing a situation that looked completely hopeless. So it's 263 AD. The Kingdom of Wei kicks off this massive invasion of its rival Shu. But their main army just grinds to a halt. They're stuck at this place called the Jiang Pass, a natural fortress so strong they said one man could hold it against 10,000. Food's running out, winter's coming, and the entire invasion is about to become a humiliating failure. And that's when General Deng Ai comes up with a plan that sounds completely insane. He wants to take a small, elite force and march them through the Yinping Mountains, a route that's over 400 kilometers long and that everyone considered totally impassable. The goal? To just walk around the entire enemy army and show up at the gates of their capital. The risk? Well, it was everything. If they got caught, they'd be trapped and wiped out to the last man. But here's the brilliance of Deng Ai's thinking. He believed that the more dangerous a path was, the safer it actually was. He was betting everything that the Shu commanders would be so focused on the obvious threat right in front of them that they wouldn't even bother guarding a route everybody knew was impossible. He was literally creating his own undefended position out of thin air. And what happens next is just this incredible story of sheer will and determination. It turned into one of the most grueling marches in all of history. I mean, we are talking about a journey through what was literally called unmanned land. For over 400 kilometers, there were no roads, no villages, no supplies, nothing. Just jagged mountains and deep, dark valleys. The historical accounts of this are just wild. When the cliffs got too steep to climb down, his soldiers wrapped themselves in thick felt blankets and just rolled to the bottom. They were scaling rock faces and inching along narrow paths single file like a line of fish. It was a completely brutal test of human endurance. And this slide just lays it all out perfectly. You can see the whole strategy in one glance. All the strength, all the attention of the Shu army was locked onto Jiang Pass, the expected fight. Meanwhile, the real path to victory, the Yinping Pass, was completely ignored because everyone thought it was its own defense. So, the result? It was mind-blowing. When Deng Ai's exhausted but determined army suddenly appeared deep inside enemy territory, the shock was total. The defenders of the nearest city just surrendered on the spot. They literally thought these men must be divine soldiers descending from heaven. Panic just ripped through the kingdom, and within weeks the emperor surrendered. A whole dynasty collapsed, not because its main army lost a battle, but because that army was made totally irrelevant.
Okay, so let's jump forward nearly 1,800 years. We're going right back to that desert in Iraq. Because the left hook of 1991 was basically Deng Ai's impossible march, just reborn in the age of tanks and GPS.
The coalition ran the exact same playbook. Step 1. Fix the enemy's gaze. They faked amphibious landings off the coast of Kuwait, and Saddam totally bought it. He was convinced the main attack was coming from the sea. Step 2. This created the weakness. He moved his best troops to fight a ghost, leaving his western flank wide open. And step 3, attack the undefended. The coalition swung this massive armored fist through that empty desert and just smashed the Iraqi army from behind. And here's the part that is so crucial to understand. That left hook force wasn't invisible. You can't hide an army that big. The Iraqis probably even saw parts of it moving, but because their leadership was already psychologically beaten, they were so convinced the real fight was somewhere else, they just ignored the information. The victory was won by controlling the enemy's mind long before a single shot was fired.
And all of this brings us to the ultimate lesson, right? And this is something that applies way beyond the battlefield. Success isn't about finding the easy road. It's about being smart enough to remove the obstacles from the hard one. Once you figure out how to do that, even the most impossible mountain path can become your own personal superhighway. So as we wrap this up, I want you to think about this. In your own life, your career, your personal goals, where is everybody else looking? Where's the big, obvious fight that has everyone's attention? And more importantly, where's that rugged, impossible path that everybody else is ignoring? Because that just might be your undefended pass.